Jose Alvarado loves to play string instruments after he plays string music.
10-4 Georgia Tech. Facing the Georgia Tech zone. And this turnaround is good from Eric Hamilton.
And Hamilton back into the lineup after a sprained ankle kept him out a couple games. Had a double-double, 10 points, 10 rebounds last time out. Good to see him back in the lineup and then giving them an offensive option in the middle of that Georgia Tech zone.
And a homecoming for Hamilton as he prepped in Duluth. Lob. Tony saves it. Tech gets it back and then a foul.
And right now, you have seen Pittsburgh getting out in transition, turning the basketball over. But Jose Alvarado, from about 30 feet or more, knocking it down at the end of the shot clock. And right now, you know, one of the things when you do games at Georgia Tech and at Clemson, the coaches get an opportunity to sit right in front of us. And I can look at my guy, Jeff Capel, right now. He is not pleased with the way his team has handled the basketball, especially in transition, or how they've handled Jose Alvarado on the defensive end.
Alvarado has taken over the Georgia Tech offense since coming in. He sat to start the game on senior night and let others start the game, but he's in and making a difference.
Well, he's making a difference, and he's made a difference here for a long while now. His last 8 games have been spectacular and playing even better basketball since his daughter Naz was born. Got an opportunity to meet her mother, Flora, earlier today. We interviewed both of them. Naz didn't have much to say, and she was asleep.
But she still stole the show.
She still stole the show, no question about it.
13-6. Champagny. Powell going to the hole. Evan Cole's first.
Nice passing along the baseline, and this is the way you have to attack Georgia Tech. If you go up softly, they are going to block your shot. Justin Champagny getting to the free throw line now simply because of how aggressive he was attacking the back.
Justin Champagny, 2-time ACC Freshman of the Week this season. He's 10th in the conference in rebounding. Averages 12.3 points and 6 double-doubles to his credit. The latest coming against Syracuse on the 26th of February.
Love this young man. He is going to be a stud in the ACC. Off to a great start and plays much bigger than his 6'6" stature, especially when you consider those rebounding numbers you just threw out.
13-7. 8 minutes have elapsed in our first half. Cole. And this one's kicked. And a trip as well. The foul charge to McGowan. Brings us to a timeout at 11:58. Here in the first half, Georgia Tech 13. The Pitt Panthers 8.
Where you don't play as hard defensively when you're not making shots. But that hasn't been the case. It's been the case for opponents coming into this building as of late.
Alvarado goes through the defense. 15 on the shot clock.
And right now we see the zone defense from Pittsburgh. Michael DeVoe, a guy that can always bust open the zone, is able to do so in that possession. And DeVoe, with 3 turnovers in this game so far, hasn't handled the basketball well, but that number 3 is good for him.
He had 22 against Pitt on the road. That first game was back in early February. 16-8.
He also had 8 turnovers in that game. 7 assists, but 8 turnovers, and off to a tough start handling the basketball. DeVoe may want to just let Alvarado handle it. He shoots it tonight.
Sounds like a plan.
It's like me and you.
Johnson gets inside. And Hamilton going up strong. He'll head to the foul line. Second foul on Evan Cole.
Xavier Johnson attacking the paint and keeping his head up, finding Hamilton, who's able to get to the free throw line. That's one of the areas where you can have success against Georgia Tech. They have had 22 players foul out of a game this season, 15 in the ACC, which is the most ever in the Georgia Tech program, but 0 have fouled out in the last 2 games, which is an accomplishment. But if you can get Banks and Wright into foul trouble, you've got a chance of knocking off the Ramblin' Wreck.
Eric Hamilton, as Tony comes back in. Hamilton was an all-Metro Atlanta player at Duluth High School as a senior. He's moved around. Wichita State, UNCG, now Pitt. He's 24 years old. This one pops out, and he settles for a split at the line. 16-9, Georgia Tech. 11 minutes left, first half. Alvarado pumps it over to the wing. Moore. His first two tonight.
And you see Josh Pastner holding up his signs, his defensive signs, trying to let his team know what defense he wants them in. Rarely would you see a head coach doing that. But Josh Pastner, very animated on the sideline, as involved as you can be for a head coach.
Over the rim, shot clock continues as Hamilton comes out of there with it. Now McGowan's dribbles through traffic, left it short, and it's out to the Jackets with only 3 on the shot clock.
And McGowan's trying to maneuver through the lane, but once again, James Banks, the long arm of the law, inside that painted area, can't gather and bring it in, but still ends up being a stop for Pitt.
Alvarado. Rebound Pitt and Hamilton. Trey trying to amp it up, gets the break going, and Champagnie can't finish. Nice step through by DeVoe and a foul. Hamilton second.
Aggressive move by Michael DeVoe in transition. Getting back to the free throw line, and DeVoe has had a very good year. Started out leading the ACC in scoring, had a big 34-point game against Georgia early. Then the injury slowed him down a bit, went through a shooting slump, but he has found a range over the last 8 games as well. 16 points per game for him over the last 8. And he and Alvarado together are a pretty formidable backcourt combination, to say the least. And if you're Josh Pastner, you have to look forward to the fact that you have Alvarado coming back as a senior, DeVoe coming back as a junior next year to be able to build a foundation.
DeVoe has hit 43% of his threes in conference play. Ryan Murphy, speaking of threes, has come in for Pitt. He leads them with 40. Johnson. McGowan's high glass. Alvarado the rebound. Jose gets into the paint. Offensive foul. Number 2 on Jose Alvarado.
And for many teams, that would be an issue. But for Georgia Tech, Josh Pastner has the highest percentage of players playing with 2 fouls in the first half of any coach in the country. He never even looked at Jose Alvarado to think about taking him out of the game with that second foul.
And we're just over halfway in this first period. 9:15 to go, opening half from Atlanta. 20-9, Georgia Tech.
As Jordan Usher came in to get Khalid Moore, Usher now back at the table. He may actually get Alvarado with the 2 fouls. Nope, I'm wrong.
Back to the bench.
But no. Well, I guess you never let him come into the game, but Moore came in, which would have been for a defensive possession. But now with the basketball going back to Georgia Tech on the turnover, Josh Pastner wanted to keep Alvarado on the floor.
Nice pass to Banks. And then traveled. Turnover is Georgia Tech's 6th. They're near the bottom of the nation in the percentage of possessions that end in a turnover.
That's been an issue for both these teams at times throughout the year, but one of the reasons why Pittsburgh was successful against Georgia Tech the game earlier was because Pittsburgh had 16 assists to 8 turnovers. Georgia Tech had 22 turnovers in that game, and both these teams right now bit by the turnover bug. Fortunately for the Ramblin' Wreck, they hold an 11-point lead.
3 straight turnovers for the men of Josh Pastner. 8:26 to go in the half. Tech leading by 9. Excuse me, by 11. 20-9. Murphy. Tipped and stolen. Banks comes down with it. Alvarado gets hit. Got him in the head. That's the second foul on McGowan.
Jose Alvarado going in, picking up the basketball. McGowan's trying to slap at it. Does catch Alvarado across the face. The second foul for McGowan's as he has to go have a seat here. Not sure if Jeff Capel will keep him out for the remaining 8:15. It's a long time to keep Trey McGowan's on the bench, especially when you have to defend two guards like Alvarado and DeVoe. But Au'Diese Toney more than capable of guarding multiple positions on the floor.
DeVoe. Penny clears. Pitt trying to get into double figures here in the scoring column. Brown and Banks right there.
Now, does he get a steal for that, or is that a block shot?
Home court advantage, yes.
Okay.
Alvarado pump fakes. Now brings it up. Alvarado keeps the dribble going. Moves in. Had nothing that time. And fortunate that Johnson was the last to touch. A timeout with 7:19 to go. First half from Atlanta. Georgia Tech 20 and Pitt 9.
And right now holding opponents to 31% field goals and 14.7 three field goals over their last 5 games here at McCamish Pavilion.
We could say this, Corey, I'm thinking about a lot of ACC teams this season. Of course, they accepted the postseason ban, so their season will end on Friday. But it really is sort of a shame because Georgia Tech, A, if they'd have taken care of business in the preseason, and B, didn't have the postseason ban, this is one of the hottest teams in the conference.
It really is, winning 7 of their last 10. And when you say 7 of the last 10, playing in 80 games, but wins against Clemson, which is difficult to beat.
Yes.
NC State, home again over Louisville. They've got some quality wins over this stretch. And Josh Pastner happy with the way his team is playing now. And they were up big at Syracuse. Ended up giving up that game. Syracuse actually swept Georgia Tech this year. But that was a game they felt like they should have won as well.
Time for tonight's CPI Security Protect the Paint. You see some of the strength of that Georgia Tech defense here.
And it starts with getting back in transition, building the wall. Jose Alvarado with great hands. But then James Banks has always been the guy to protect the rim for Georgia Tech. Alvarado again coming up with the strip. And then James Banks coming away with the steal. They have protected the paint as well as you possibly can in this game. Only 9 points for Pittsburgh scored in almost 13 minutes of game action.
James Banks, 9th in the ACC in rebounding, 2nd in blocks. And now the Jackets have it with just 3 on the shot clock. They lob it up toward Banks. It rolls around, and as the shot clock is going to expire here, the buzzer never sounded.
And right now, the basketball never hit the rim. That's one that has to be a shot clock violation. And one of the things that Jeff Capel wants to make sure is that that is not a tie basketball to where the possession arrow changes. You don't want that. You want it to be a shot clock violation, giving you the basketball back, and which it should have been. But the shot clock was actually reset at some point during that play. And as the basketball comes in, it can't start till someone touches it. Now that someone touches the basketball, 2-1, and immediately resets to 30 in comparison to the buzzer going off, signifying a shot clock violation. But the officials have cleared it. Lee Cassell, Keith Kimball, a great group here tonight. Got it squared away.
20-9, Georgia Tech. Going up, and the long arm of James Banks denies another one. Usher to the hole.
And nice take by Usher. I thought that was a play he was going to try to make a spectacular lob to Moses Wright, who was running the floor hard, but he made the right decision in attacking on his own. Had the advantage over Ryan Murphy, who could not stop an athlete like Jordan Usher coming to the basket with that speed.
Murphy. Inside Tony. And Banks right there to meet him. Chest to chest.
And once again, staying vertical, James Banks getting in, and Banks also coming up, blocking the dunk attempt by Xavier Johnson coming to the rim, which turns into points the other direction for Georgia Tech.
Alvarado fouled by Xavier Johnson, his second.
And now Xavier Johnson as well as Trey McGowan's both for the starting backcourt for the Panthers with 2 fouls. Jeff Capel going to leave Johnson on the floor for now.
Right. Up and in. A strong candidate, Corey, for most improved in the ACC.
Absolutely. When you consider where he was his first 2 years, and had some moments over his first 2 years, but he has been their most consistent performer all season long. Started every game, averaging 14 points per game, and playing better in ACC play than he did in the non-conference. And to throw in the 33-point game at Syracuse doesn't hurt his chance.
That wasn't bad. Alvarado.
No, wait a minute. We're just getting carried away. Okay. So one thing that I can say that I don't see from Jose Alvarado is being a lob catcher. A lob thrower, yes. Catcher, no. He does everything well, but I'm not going to put that on his resume. Michael DeVoe making that pass and putting Alvarado in that position. And Jose, we're going to have to talk about that one, but you can't airball. I can't blame the airball on DeVoe.
Foul on DeVoe, his first. Ryan Murphy.
And right now you can tell Pittsburgh having a tough time trying to solve this Georgia Tech zone as Murphy is able to hit the magic button and knock down the three. The first three-point field goal made for Pitt in this game, and a very necessary bucket.
And Corey, what strikes me about the Georgia Tech defense when they go to that zone is not so much the size and the fact they're playing a zone. It's their length that seems to be bothering Pitt.
And it's the length, and it's also the fact that you never know how they're going to rotate. Right. I mean, because they could be playing like 3 to 4 different defenses all in one possession, and there's no rhyme or reason as to what Josh Pastner's group does.
Usher with the miss. Tech hangs on to it.
And that's another play. James Banks just getting in the way, not allowing Justin Champagnie to corral that rebound and maintaining possession for Georgia Tech.
Double bounce entry to DeVoe. Right in the middle.
The double bouncer, huh?
Whatever it takes. Moses Wright has his second basket. He had 9 here in the win over Miami over the weekend.
But the difference for Georgia Tech attacking Terrell Brown, who is a very good shot blocker, and Georgia Tech is finishing where Pittsburgh is not finishing on their opportunities when they get to the rim. And the Panthers pretty much one and done on every possession.
Banks has been outstanding. And Moses does it again. Timeout Pitt.
But that's where Alvarado needs to be. The lob thrower, not the lob catcher. Jose knows his personnel. He knows his role. And getting into the lane, he's able to find Moses Wright, Alvarado, finding Wright, who finishes off Pitt down 16 to Tech. He hasn't been much of a starter. I believe started the last 4 games last season for Georgia Tech. But what he's been able to do this season has been spectacular. And 2 great candidates, but in my opinion, I think that award goes to Moses Wright. But Garrison Brooks will be on the second team All-ACC team, so I don't think he'll be too upset about it.
How many stars did Moses Wright have coming out of high school?
Well, when you only play 1 year, I don't think they award you stars.
But it speaks to the amazing improvement he's made here and playing in the ACC on top of that.
Agreed. And that's one of the areas where Josh Pastner and his staff have done a great job with their development. Another turnover and getting out in transition. 2 more fast break points for Georgia Tech, up to 6 now compared to 0 for the Panthers on the game as Georgia Tech stretches it to an 18-point lead.
An extended 17-4 scoring run. Murphy out of the corner with a much-needed 3. He's hit 2 of them to keep Pitt afloat.
Well, and this has been the difference in the game. When the game played in Pittsburgh earlier in February, Trey McGowan and Xavier Johnson combined for 25 points, 16 assists, and only 2 turnovers with 6 steals. Georgia Tech, as we mentioned, had 22 turnovers. DeVoe had 8 of those. Alvarado with 3. So the game between these two teams has been determined by the backcourts. And thus far in this one, the backcourt of Georgia Tech has been dominant in this game.
Here's the offensive foul on Jordan Usher.
And give Hamilton credit with his 2 fouls, stepping over and taking the charge, putting his body on the line. And again, Jordan Usher, when you look at him, he's not a guy that I want to take a charge on. He's a big-time athlete, strong coming to that basket. I'm not really trying to step in there and take that one.
You'd rather take a charge on a freight train.
I'd rather not take a charge.
Well, you're one of those pretty guards. Look good shooting the ball. And another 3 here. Drumgoole puts this one in, and Pitt starting to get that 3-ball going.
Well, and you have to make those against this Georgia Tech zone to be able to get them to start playing you man-to-man. 2 threes by Murphy, and now 1 by Drumgoole. Maybe softens that zone up a little bit.
Right with steps. Back to Pitt.
And Mike Roberts standing right beside Jeff Capel. I'm not sure if Roberts had time to call that before Coach Capel was already in his ear about the travel, but Mike Roberts right on top of the call.
Jeff, will you let me blow the whistle?
Yeah, he didn't give him time. Didn't give him time.
30-18. Johnson protects, launches, a little short, fights for it. Scrap is on underneath. Pitt ball, and Banks there again.
The scramble on the interior. Xavier Johnson and Audice Toney both in the mix for the Panthers coming up with the basketball. But once again, James Banks there to deny any opportunities at the rim.
3rd block for Banks. Johnson, sidestep 3, good. Xavier Johnson's first 3. That's 4 for Pitt in the last couple of minutes to cut it to 9.
And that has been the difference maker for the Panthers now, not turning the basketball over and getting shots. And when those shots are 3-pointers that go down, it makes it much easier to cut into a big lead.
Jackets buried in the corner. Moore gets rid of it. Now DeVoe. Shot clock's at 7. Parham. DeVoe. Air ball. And the buzzer sounds. It's going to be out to Pitt.
But one of the things you have to remember, Josh Pastner taking Jose Alvarado out of the game with those 2 fouls. And just like that, after the 1 possession, Alvarado back into the game on defense, which is rare, especially when you're trying to protect a player that has 2 fouls. But Josh Pastner did not like the way that last offensive possession went for Georgia Tech and gets Alvarado back on the court.
Along with Evan Cole. 30-21, Georgia Tech. Jackets ball. Xavier Johnson coughs it up.
And we talked about only 8 turnovers for Pittsburgh in the first meeting between these two. A 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio, 16-8, which is one of their better games on the season and part of the reason why they were able to win. And it's been a struggle for them here in this first half, handling the basketball.
10 first-half turnovers for the Panthers. Banks. Tipno. And a foul on James Banks.
And that's a frustration foul by Banks simply because he missed that jump hook. And compounds the miss by fouling. And Banks is a guy that has to stay out of foul trouble for Georgia Tech. You need him on the floor. Can't afford to waste fouls 94 feet away from his opponent's basket.
1-1 for Eric Hamilton. Bidding for his 4th point tonight.
And if there's one area where Pittsburgh once again has not helped themselves, also at the free throw line. We mentioned 15 for 27 against NC State in a game where they shot the ball relatively well and still unable to come away with a win, and they can only look back and blame the free throw line for that.
The shot clock is off. We come to the end of the first half. Johnson all the way through, and Tech meets him at the rim. Cole and Banks right there.
Another block shot by Georgia Tech. And it's not just James Banks. Evan Cole coming up with a huge block on that possession, denying Xavier Johnson at the rim. And Josh Pastner, for the last 4.3, will get Alvarado out of the game, trying to protect him from picking up that third.
Out of bounds, goes underneath, tipped in the air, pulled down by Banks. The buzzer sounds. That will be the half. Intermission, elbow, you name it. Georgia Tech is struggling.
It's been a different team, and you see Alvarado again aggressive, getting a look to start the second half. And it's going to be interesting to see who is the guy that responds for Pittsburgh. Ardis Toney has been their guy on the road. Of course, Justin Champagne's had a great year. But the backcourt of Trey McGowan and Xavier Johnson really need to step up their production if Pitt wants a chance of winning this game.
Turnaround. Hamilton scores. That's 5 points for Eric Hamilton in his homecoming game. He went for 10 and 10 against the Wolfpack in Raleigh last Saturday. 30-23.
And we talk about the fact that this is the last home game for Georgia Tech, but this is also the last regular season game for the Panthers. They don't play this Saturday, so what they're doing right now is getting prepared for the ACC tournament. And Jeff Capel would much prefer to go into Greensboro on a winning note in comparison to having lost 7 straight games.
DeVoe, knuckleballs one home, and now a 3-ball from Johnson, his second. And Pitt looks reborn behind that 3-point line. And now some pressure.
Yeah, they're going to go with their full court pressure. Moses Wright tying his shoe, not in the right position, forcing a great trap against Michael DeVoe, and a turnover. I'm sorry, not a turnover, but a timeout.
Georgia Tech timeout. Pitt comes roaring back. They cut it to 6. They were once down 18.
So far for Coach Jeff Capel, and now what was a 18-point lead early in during the first half, now cut to 6. And Georgia Tech on notice that the Panthers are here to play.
And right now, Alvarado's out of the game. Parham's in at the point. Bubba gives it over to DeVoe.
And I knew Josh Pastner was unhappy with someone when he called that timeout, but wasn't sure who, and still not understanding why it was Jose Alvarado. Moses Wright was in the backcourt tying his shoe, and so therefore Alvarado didn't have a choice but to accept the double team. And right now, Alvarado, a spectator, but I can tell you right now, for Josh Pastner, he won't be there long.
Champagnie picked up that last foul. Here's a turnaround by Wright, gets it off, but travel. Things are going well for Josh Pastner and the Jackets, but now Pitt is playing with confidence. Momentum, Corey, has no allegiance. It can switch benches at any time.
Absolutely right. All it takes is to make a couple shots. Another one right there. Opportunity by Champagne's not finished. Look at James Banks.
Just blocking everything. This time a whistle, and to the line, Eric Hamilton.
But you know, when you talk about that momentum, is maybe a little extracurricular conversation underneath, but you talk about that momentum. With Pittsburgh, you see the energy and the effort. James Banks coming in and blocking a shot, but that momentum has been brought by Eric Hamilton. He's been the guy that's been a difference maker for the Panthers, and he started the second half, but he did it in the first as well.
Second foul on James Banks, and Eric Hamilton at the line for 2 free throws. He's got 5 points in the game, a 72% free throw shooter. Now a word from Bojangles.
Dive into a delicious Bojangler fish fillet sandwich right now at Bojangles. It's Bo time.
See Jose Alvarado checking back into the game, and you talked about that momentum. Josh Bassett recognizing that Pittsburgh has it at the time, and they're going to go with that full court pressure. You need your best ball handling Alvarado on the floor.
32-28. Pressure again by the Panthers. Trap coming at midcourt. Alvarado may have gotten away with a push. Now DeVoe handles it on the wing. Usher. Banks gets rid of it. DeVoe fakes. And a steal. Xavier Johnson leads a 4-on-1. Pulls and misses. Banks the rebound. DeVoe. Barnes pass is tipped and stolen. What a play by Pitt. And a foul on Parham. Boy, that was some save by McGowan's at the other end.
You are absolutely right, and that is athleticism at its best. You see Trey McGowan can't land without landing out of bounds, so saves the basketball in midair, getting it to Tony, and gets the Panthers out in transition, picking up another foul on Georgia Tech. And right now, everything going in favor of the Panthers here on the road.
Hamilton. The lob and the stop for Evan Cole.
It doesn't take much to get momentum back. Great play by Jordan Usher. Evan Cole running the floor very well, able to finish it off with the dunk, and just like that, the crowd back into the game, and the Yellow Jackets feeling better about themselves.
Up off the glass, kept alive by Hamilton, and a foul as Champagnie was going back up. They're doing a much more aggressive job crashing the offensive glass.
Speaking of aggressive, Evan Cole running the floor hard and able to finish off the beautiful find from Jordan Usher. And Pittsburgh defense not able to get back and set that wall that is trying to keep Georgia Tech away from the basket here to start this second half.
Third point for Justin, all at the line tonight. Averaging 12.3. He's a 78% free throw shooter. Nails them both. 34-30.
But that's the thing for Pittsburgh. When they score, it allows them to set up their pressure and more going into the danger zone. And that's going to be 3, I believe, on Trey McGowan. But Jeff Capel and Lee Cassell having a quick conversation. Coach Capel thought that it was clean. Lee Cassell letting him know he had contact on it, but had to pay attention to that third foul. Pitt's a different team, especially defensively, with Trey McGowan's on the floor.
Alvarado goes baseline. Splits the double team, and a monster jam for Jordan Usher. Tipped by Alvarado, but right back it comes to Johnson. Plenty of clock for Pitt to work with here. Middle pick and roll. Johnson. Little push shot. That's a tougher shot than it looks. Cole breaks away. 38-30. Moving in is Tony. Alvarado leads a 3-on-2. Now another lob to Cole. This broken up. Hit the other way. Open floor for McGowan's. He gives it up to Tony on the pass. That is knocked away, and Tech has it. Windshield wiper basketball. Back and forth they go. Here comes the dunk attempt by Banks, but he left it short. Now it's Cole having it broken up. We got bodies flying everywhere.
I'm not sure what was more entertaining. Watching that or listening to you describe it. One thing's for certain, we have seen some spectacular plays along with some chaos here in the second half. Alvarado to Usher. Apparently Chris Light's bleeding from his face has been taken to the locker room. We got to keep an eye on that one as we've got a good one here. In this second half, it's a 1-point lead for the Panthers, but only 2 for 9 from the field, but they have been attacking the basket, getting to the free throw line 4 for 4. We talked about at halftime, they had to take care of their freebies. They've done that here to try to close the gap against Georgia Tech.
Hit ball out of the timeout. Tony gives it back to Johnson. In the game, Ryan Murphy. Brown with the screen. Shot clock at 8. Murphy. That's a 2. And Banks coming up with another rebound, and we've got to hold everything.
Well, Tony actually went for an offensive board and hung on the rim to try to avoid Jordan Usher, but then lands on Usher as the two players dap each other up, move on. Jordan Usher recognizing that's just a basketball play, but the basketball stays with Georgia Tech.
And it remains 38-30. Under 15 to go, second half. Alvarado with a pass off the dribble to Moore. Gets it back. Alvarado. Now to the wing. Here's Usher. In the middle, Cole turns and hits. Evan Cole coming to life here in the second half.
Yeah, we talked about Moses Wright a lot in the first half, but Evan Cole has been the story for the Yellow Jackets here in the second half, giving them great minutes, not only offensively but defensively as well, blocking shots, making plays, and taking on the challenge of guarding Justin Champagny.
Murphy zips it cross court. Tony on the deck. In the air from the baseline. Alvarado. Here's Moore. Cole one more time. He scored 6 of Tech's last 8. Usher shovels it back. Dunks it. First bucket is a dandy. 42-30.
But when you look at, you get an opportunity to see James Banks' mom watching, who celebrated here with them on senior night, and checking out the game, but great interior passing. One from Evan Cole to find Usher, who doesn't stand, and cuts to the open spot and drops it off as mom enjoys it. Getting to see her baby boy play for the last time here in Atlanta.
And James just charged with his 3rd personal foul. Xavier Johnson to the foul line for Pitt for the first time tonight. And that's point number 7. Now a word from Continental Tire.
Continental Tire, for what you do.
.74% are at the line, averages just under 12 points a game. Johnson now with 8, and Pitt cuts it to 10.
But by Pittsburgh making shots and finishing their free throws, it allows them opportunity to set up this full-court pressure, which has given Georgia Tech problems.
Nice bounce. Alvarado lays it in with the left hand.
But no problems on that one. Great passing. And I love the fact that Jose Alvarado did not get passive, but continues to stay aggressive, attacking the basket, takes the quick bucket in comparison to pulling it out and running offense.
And coming through, a foul on Moore, his 2nd.
Not a popular call here amongst the fans of Georgia Tech, but one thing you can say, Khalid Moore has given the Yellow Jackets very good minutes in this game, playing very well, and we're watching a Georgia Tech team that has been successful without Michael DeVoe on the floor here for the majority of this second half. And we talked about DeVoe had 22 points against Pittsburgh the last time they played, the leading scorer. But this has not been his game thus far.
And a foul coming. And this is going to be on Johnson for an illegal screen.
And I believe that's going to be 3 on Xavier Johnson as well. So now you've got McGowan's and Johnson, the starting backcourt for the Panthers, each with 3 fouls. And as aggressive as they play, especially on the defensive end of the floor, that's going to be one of the things we got to keep an eye on as we move forward.
Moore jumps it over. Alvarado hits the 3. String music.
And Alvarado gets the credit for knocking down the shot, but Khalid Moore did all the work on that possession. His ability to handle the basketball versus 2 great defenders in McGowan's and Xavier Johnson, and take on the pressure and oh, wait a minute.
Hello.
We talked about how these Tonys been great on the road, but going to the bank this late at night.
12 and a half to go. Pitt had this thing down to 4. Tech went up 47-32 before that three. Banks missing the hook. Hit on the push with Johnson. Trying to go inside. Tony ends up with it. Jackets all around him, and they take it away.
Once again, Alvarado with the strip. One of the reasons why.
Offensive foul. Dylan Moore, that's his third.
But you see Alvarado, who's had games of 9 steals and 7 steals in this building. 9 against NC State, where broke a Georgia Tech record, and then 7 against Miami on Saturday. And you see Jose Alvarado has no problem sticking his nose in there, not scared of contact, but does everything he can to help his team win.
24th drawn charge by Xavier Johnson. Pitt gets it back. Champagnie isolated against Cole, gives it up. Cross court. From Gould up top. Now the bounce to Tony. 5 on the shot clock. Hamilton. Air ball. Alvarado quickly ahead for the Jackets. Gets to the middle. Cole has it. Shot clock continues to run at 20. Inside right. Great pass. High-low action. Gets Evan Cole a jam.
But whenever you're playing against a zone, you've got to have guys in the middle that can make plays for themselves or teammates. And right there, Moses Wright, we've seen him go one-on-one in those positions to score. That time, great vision to be able to find Evan Cole for the dunk.
Tony denied. Fouled is Gould. And now we have a technical foul as we go to a timeout at the 11th minute.
Well, he's a junior now. He's got to recognize if you're going to say it, you got to turn away from the official and say it under your breath, because it basically, not only did it cost them 2 free throw opportunities, so Justin Champagnie will be at the line, and there will be 4 free throws for Pittsburgh. But also, it's the 3rd and 4th foul for Evan Cole.
Champagnie, hard to believe he doesn't have a field goal yet in this game. All 5 of his points have come at the stripe. 6 double-doubles to his credit. The latest coming in that monster game against Syracuse. 13 points, 17 boards. It's 49-37.
Going to be Gould shooting the free throws. He was actually fouled on the play by Cole.
Gerald, the freshman from Rochester, hit a big 3 in the first half that got Pitt going late in that first half. They used a barrage of 3s to cut it to 9 at halftime. In 13 ACC games, he's totaled a grand total of 10. Misses the foul shot. But
Gould actually got the starting assignment in game 1 versus Florida State, which the Panthers won. He was a starter over Justin Champagnie. So Gould actually was injured early in the year, but had he stayed healthy, we may not have seen the all-ACC rookie team season that we've seen thus far from Justin Champagnie.
I think that's called being Wally Pipped.
Wally Pipped.
49-38. Wright. Moses Wright, his offense has come in spurts tonight.
It has, and that shot was kind of matter of fact. Well, I don't have anyone to pass it to, so I may as well shoot. It ends up being a bucket for Moses Wright as he approaches another double-figure game where he's been in double figures all but 6 games this season.
Trey McGowan is going to move to the line, and that's going to be number 3 on Jose Alvarado.
And Lee Cassell showing restraint, letting Jose Alvarado know, hey, that's enough as far as his demonstrative opposition to that call. But we saw Trey McGowan go to the free throw line and missed 2 earlier, makes the first.
And we should point out, Corey, that that's 10 team fouls on Georgia Tech.
Well, Pitt has been aggressive attacking the basket in this game, so give them credit for that. And we talked about the fact that Georgia Tech has had 22 players disqualified from games this year because of fouls. So it's nothing rare for the Yellow Jackets to be in foul trouble.
We've still got over 10 minutes to go in this game, and 2 free throws now for Pitt the rest of the night. Here's Usher holding it out front. DeVoe to Cole, looking for Wright on the block. Can't find him. Usher, a little ball fake drive and a foul on Drumgoole.
But at the end of the shot clock, 5 seconds remaining, and you get the sarcastic ovation for the foul being called on the Panthers after it seems to the fans here that every call has been made against Georgia Tech to this point.
Like the coaches say, you know the problem with referees? They don't care who wins.
Well, right now, Jeff Capel having a conversation with Lee Cassell about the fact that Jordan Usher was not shooting.
He only misses the first.
But Georgia Tech not yet in the bonus. So that was called a shooting foul, 2 shots. And he missed the first one, so it was 1-1. So regardless, the Panther staff did not think that that was a shooting foul.
Tony. McGowan. Nice drive. And got that one in for his first field goal tonight.
But that was a smart play by Trey McGowan for 2 reasons. One, he's got the size advantage over Jose Alvarado, but also recognizing Alvarado has 3 fouls, doesn't want to be too aggressive defending him and fouling him. And that time, McGowan was able to get all the way to the rim.
DeVoe. Shot clock at 7. Cole onto the double team. Hits the cutting right. Goes up high for the dunk. Couldn't get it. Alvarado gets it back. Steps through. Push shot for 2. Alvarado was 17. 54-42 Tech.
And even though it doesn't feel like it, Georgia Tech has maintained a 10 to 12 point lead for the majority of the second half after the initial push by Pitt to get back into this game.
The Panthers came out hot to start the second half, cut it to 4. Georgia Tech stepped on the gas again, and despite their foul difficulties, lead it by a dozen. Alvarado. Cole. And third opportunity. Way out front to DeVoe. Down to Alvarado. Gets around 2 men. A third at the basket and lays it home.
And Jose Alvarado continues to play spectacular basketball.
Jordan Usher's third foul.
And Alvarado attacking the rim. And after missing the 3-pointer, attacks 2 Pitt defenders and then goes around Hamilton for the finish. And Jose Alvarado finishing his season strong. And he better be, because we talked to Flora, mother of Nas, his daughter, and Flora told us today, as of Sunday, Jose Alvarado's the guy getting up with the baby in the middle of the night. She's let him have some time off from those responsibilities while the season is going on. But as of Sunday, when Georgia Tech season ends, he is on daddy duty.
And we know what that's like.
We do.
Yes, he'll go into yes, dear mode. 6 points for Tony. 56-43. .13-point Georgia Tech lead as DeVoe heads to the wing with it and right. DeVoe. Bingo. Second 3 for 10.
Jeff Capel just dejected by that play. Adise Toney goes for the steal, but when you don't get it and you leave Michael DeVoe wide open, it is detrimental detrimental to your defense. Michael DeVoe, a knockdown three-point shooter, once here on the home court, continues to stay aggressive, attacking the basket. When the jumper isn't falling, he doesn't mind putting his head down and getting to the rim. 19 points for him, 8 for 15 from the floor, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. Filling up the stat sheet in every category for Georgia Tech.
Well, look at the stats. And those are the game numbers in the second half. Pitt is 4 for 17. The Jackets 13 of 20.
But look at the paint points. 34 to 9 in favor of Georgia Tech.
And this is going to be a 10-second backcourt violation.
Jeff Capel and his entire staff calling out the 10. Maybe a little early, but
Jeff had it at 9.95.
But they are on top of it, no question about it. Getting the officials' attention, making them look up at the shot clock. And once you see 20, it is a 10-second violation.
And they turn it over.
And that's really been the story of the night for the Panthers. Every time they've gotten an opportunity, they've squandered it, normally with a turnover or giving up an offensive rebound. And it's hard to win games on the road when you make those type of mistakes.
Alvarado. Johnson defending. The bump. And that will be number 4 on Xavier Johnson. .650 left. Moses Wright plays into Banks. Little give and go. And a push on the catch. Champagne's second foul. Underneath DeVoe. Tipped.
And there's another one of those plays, and Jeff Capel can do nothing but just put his head down, be dejected, because it normally turns out to be a big basket. Another three-pointer from Michael DeVoe, where Pitt should have had a stop, but unable to come up with the defensive board.
62-43, and Georgia Tech has its biggest lead of the game. Rejected again by Banks. That's his 4th of the night. Michael DeVoe. Alvarado now works on Tony. Keeps that low dribble going and then fouled on the crossover. And Tony upset with the call. Boy, James Banks doing his thing.
But it doesn't get much easier than this for Banks. And that's a play where Justice Champagnie, you've got to recognize who James Banks is. He's sitting there in a crouched position just waiting for you to put the basketball in the air so he can not only deny it, but give the possession back to his team.
And with that, Jose Alvarado reaches the 20-point plateau, his 7th of the season. Rolls the second one in from the line. 64-43.
And Bob, I believe Jose Alvarado will be an all-ACC performer this year when the votes are cast this week. Most likely on the 3rd team, but he has had a spectacular season as Moses Wright comes up with a big block.
Banks challenged that one. Count the basket and a foul on Banks.
And Ardis Toney coming across, shot is blocked by Moses Wright, but then on the follow-up, Justice Champagnie is able to finish even through the contact, gets the bucket and the opportunity for the and one.
Champagnie puts it in. Cole will come in and will go out. And it's batted away by Xavier Johnson. 5:38 left.
You see Pittsburgh applying the pressure. And right now, that's a tough place to go try to catch the basketball. But beautiful find. Now, advantage basketball for Georgia Tech, and a great play by Eric Hamilton. He only had one option. It was a 3-on-1. And Hamilton does the right thing, stepping in and taking the charge from DeVoe. And that's a play. You've got 3 white jerseys down there with just the one in blue. DeVoe's got to give that basketball up and avoid that turnover.
It's going to be DeVoe to exit. And Moore coming back in. 5:32 left. Georgia Tech in control. Tony turns the corner. Rejected. That was Usher, I believe, who got that one. Alvarado on the lob. Right bumps it off the rim. Rebound to Pitt. And a foul on Georgia Tech. Well, the Jackets aren't bashful going to that high wire rack.
They are not, and they haven't had much success at it tonight. I believe they're probably about 2 for 6. But, you know, one thing you got to give them credit for, Moses Wright, Evan Cole, James Banks, these guys, they're bigs for Georgia Tech, get out and run the floor extremely well. And you got to respect the guards, giving them opportunities at the rim to create those highlights. No, the one I've got to go back to is Michael DeVoe throwing the lob to Jose Alvarado.
We'll take that out of the highlight.
You got to take that one out. The other ones I can respect.
Second free throw coming for Eric Hamilton as Tony sits. DeVoe's out for the Jackets. Second shot for Hamilton. (64-47). Alvarado hustles it up.
It's so difficult to trap Jose Alvarado. Such a smart, heady basketball player. Of course, he's a New York City kid straight out of Brooklyn with a New York City handle. And that is difficult to be able to get 2 bodies to be able to trap him, especially when he stays on the move.
And the push. That's on Johnson. He's fouled out of the game. Exits with 4:54 and a technical foul.
Well, the foul, Xavier Johnson felt like he was hooked. And you see him moving. Khalid Moore does hook. But the foul was actually called prior. And Johnson on his way out has the wrong thing to say to Keith Kimball. So adds insult to injury, sending Alvarado to the line to put more points on his tab. And the point guard battle in this game has been lopsided in favor of Alvarado after Xavier Johnson won the battle in Pittsburgh earlier this year.
Jose up to 23 points. Frustration etched on the face of Xavier Johnson. Now it's Moore to the line for the first time tonight. And he puts this one down for his 3rd point. 6'7" sophomore who's made 12 starts for the Jackets this year.
And he has given them great minutes tonight, but great production. And he did a really good job of handling the pressure to start the second half. With DeVoe on the bench, he became more of a ball handler, creating shots for his teammates and handling the pressure, giving his teammates an opportunity to play with an advantage in the front court.
Tony. And one on the Moses White personal.
Now these Tony attacking the body of Moses Wright, who stays vertical on that one. Plays as best as he can, but the officials feeling as though there was too much contact, sending Tony to the line, an opportunity for the 3-point play.
A left-hander from Huntsville, Alabama, missing the free throw.
And Tony's mom in attendance tonight had opportunity to talk to her earlier while I was upstairs eating my pregame meal.
Which consisted of?
2 Italian sausages and nachos.
A gastronomic delight. 68-49.
It was better than it was when you just said that.
Cole from the corner. Nice reverse.
And a great play by Drumgoole to avoid the charge. Alvarado setting him up.
.350 remaining. Champagny in double figures with 11. Right. Knuckleballed that one toward the hole. Hit the other way. Nice tough move inside by Hamilton. 68-53. Catch, shot, foul on Drumgoole, his second. A timeout with 3:16 left. Contributions from Evan Cole.
Well, Evan Cole getting out, running in transition, finishing off one of the successful lobs for the Yellow Jackets tonight. But great interior passing has allowed Evan Cole to get involved in this basketball game. 8 points, 4 for 7 field goals, 7 boards for Evan Cole. And he's given them great production off the bench. And talking with our guy Mike Stamos, Moose, the infamous SID for Georgia Tech. And I threw Evan Cole in there for maybe as the starting center for Georgia Tech next year. This Georgia Tech team returns almost everyone. You lose James Banks and Shabari Phillips. But this is a Georgia Tech team that has a chance to be very, very good next year. And they've got a special player in Evan Cole who I think has jumped into that starting lineup. We get a chance to see our guy Moose.
There is the aforementioned Mike Stamos. Handles the basketball work out of the SID office here for Georgia Tech. And when you say very good, Corey, you're talking about upper echelon ACC good.
I am talking upper echelon ACC good because you've got a dynamic backcourt with Jose Alvarado and Michael DeVoe. Bubba Parham is still in the mix for them. Moses Wright, who has a chance to be the most improved player, is back in the fold. Jordan Usher's back. And then when you think about if Evan Cole can step in at that 5 position, or Wright can play the 5, Cole can play the 4, those guys are relatively interchangeable. They've got experience, but a number of skilled players that can help Josh Pastner next season.
Jumper by Eric Hamilton.
And for whatever everyone thinks about the ACC, whether it was good or bad or down or whatever maybe this year, the ACC next year, if the players who you would expect to return come back, is back as the top conference in the country. You know, Elijah Hughes, who will be a first-team All-ACC member, if he comes back to Syracuse, Syracuse is upper echelon. North Carolina with their recruiting class and their returners and Garrison Brooks, most likely Armando Bacot, they will be upper echelon. Virginia will be upper echelon. Duke is always upper echelon. So you get, and this Pittsburgh team, and you know, if you have Xavier Johnson, Trey McGowers, Justin Champagny, and Aldis Toney back in the mix, Terrell Brown's back, they return pretty much everyone as well outside of Eric Hamilton. So they've got a chance of being really good as well.
2:10 left. Alvarado's holding his hand. They had jammed a finger.
You know, Bobby, and you've seen enough of Jose Alvarado, but he gets hurt 5 to 10 times a game. The over-under when he comes in is always going to be a line when you consider how many times will he be injured throughout the game. Hopefully nothing major.
Cole. Banks. Trying to get one more on senior night. Alvarado with a steal. Tricky dribbles through 2 defenders. Lobs it. Unable to connect is Moore. Now he nearly stole that pass. McGowan's gets it across. Drumgoole goes in. The hook by Hamilton is short. Cole the rebound. Final minute 17. 70-55. Georgia Tech going to travel. A timeout. And the seniors are going to get their curtain call, it appears. And Banks will stay in. Phillips will come in. Or is it? Yes, Phillips is in the game.
Yeah, right now, Phillips and Banks will stay in the game, and I believe that Josh Pastner at some point over this next 74 seconds will find a way to get both these guys an ovation from this crowd as they'll win their last game here on the home court as members of the Yellow Jacket.
Phillips has been here 3 seasons, transferred in from Tennessee, an Atlanta native. He's played 13 games coming in. Shoot it. There you go.
Get him out, coach. That's the way you finish your career, Shamari Phillips. Get him out.
Three in the corner for Pitt. Rebound to right.
And Josh Pastner wants the timeout. He wants his guys to get that curtain call.
And DeBow will take the timeout here.
Actually, it's going to be a turnover. It's not going to be a timeout. He wants him to walk out of bounds. So therefore, you can get James Banks and Shamari Phillips the necessary ovation that they both deserve. Well, their career is very well done here as mom salutes her son. James Banks, who will most likely be part of that All-ACC defensive team this year, closes out his career at home for Georgia Tech.
Play in for Drumgoole. 73-57. Shot clock is off, and Georgia Tech can dribble out the final seconds here tonight and savor this win, their 10th in the ACC. If they can win at Clemson, they've got a shot in the final standings to be 5th.
And which would be great improvement for Josh Pastner and his group.
James Banks soaks it all in.